You know what's great now is you can go listen to the podcast version too. Listen to it again. You can say, Alexa, play the Pivot Shift Ahead Mastermind podcast. It's good stuff. Good morning, everybody. It is 8:01. It's your friend James Shaw. Thank you so much for choosing to be here this morning inside of Pivot Shift Ahead. We are live in the Facebook community now. We are live on Zoom, or you're watching the recording or listening to the podcast version. Thank you so much for choosing to be here. You know what I think? I think the people who participate in this on a regular basis are more likely to achieve their goals because you are focused on opportunity, possibility, strategy, and execution. You're getting inspiration and then you're going to work. You're part of a community that's focused on results. We have a culture of productivity, and all of those things matter. You know, I think community does two things. It gives you hope. In other words, you recognize that you aren't the only one dealing with whatever you're dealing with. And it inspires productivity. It inspires you to get after it. And that's what we're going to do today because there was a survey that came out late last week from Resi Club where they asked agents all over the country who has the leverage right now. And every area of the country said buyers have the leverage right now, which is so different than what we had a couple of years ago. And so we're going to talk about strategy around that. Now, yesterday, we talked about helping your buyers understand what it means for them to have leverage and creating clarity and expectation around what that means. And so if you missed it, go to anywhere where you can, find a podcast and type in Pivot Shift Ahead Mastermind and boom, you can listen to it. It's on my YouTube channel and it's inside the Pivot Shift Ahead Facebook group. So you can go back and listen to it. Today, I want to talk about what it means for a seller when we enter a market where a buyer has leverage. What's their strategy around pricing? So we'll do that, but we're going to do two something goods. That's all we have time for this morning. And I'm going to pick and choose, and we're going to go Bree and Crystal. Those are going to be our twos. So if I didn't call on you, put it in the chat. Bree, go first.
Thank you. So mine is, and I don't think she's on the call, but Dee Hudson, she reached out to me and said she was going to be in Charlotte for the Georgia Realtor Association conference. So we had the pleasure of doing dinner last night and I got to meet her and it was just so cool to, meet her for the first time. And it just another nod to you, James. And all of us would not be here had it not been for you. So also my something good is for you and your leadership and just how you have created this thread and this community that has just created relationships that we will forever be grateful for. So I'm forever grateful for you.
I am forever grateful for you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Bree, and I'm glad you got to meet Dee Hudson. She is genius.
Hmm.
And her system around seller seminars, I've seen others of you run it, and you're getting results from it. So go learn the plays and run them. Bree, thank you so much. Crystal McCall, good morning.
Well, good morning to you and all the wonderful faces I get to look at today.
Did you have
I,
something good, Crystal?
I have a really good something good. We hit our 52-year wedding anniversary, and I've done it being in this business for 45 years of that time. And then I have this wonderful organization to keep me going. It really makes a difference because, as you cited, so many people are struggling. I'm blessed. We're not struggling. We've just slowed down a little bit and we're working a little harder with great success.
Well, you've struggled before and you'll get through it, but here's the big question. What is the secret to 52 years of joyful wedded bliss?
Well, patience. He's very patient with me.
That's so great. Congratulations to both of you.
Thank you.
That's good stuff. And you get to work with your daughter, who's as old as Bree, in the business, which is very exciting.
Such a blessing.
It is, no doubt. All right, let's get after it. So that survey came out. I posted it on my Instagram, James D. Shaw. So if you have a chance, go over to the Instagram, search James D. Shaw, and you'll see the study from Resi Club that talked about how buyers are the ones that have leverage right now. So I'd encourage you to go to James D. Shaw on Instagram and look that up. And so yesterday we did the piece about, well, what does that mean for a buyer if they have leverage in today's market? And how do we help them understand what that means and set the right expectations for them? Today, I want to talk about pricing strategy for a seller. So let me walk through what this looks like, and then I'll open it up for people to share. Because when the market shifts and buyers gain leverage, sellers struggle with what that means. And so let me ask you this question. Put it in the chat. Who is in control in a market where a buyer has leverage? Put it in the chat. Who's in control in a market where the buyers have leverage? And I'm going to watch the chat, and my guess is most of you are going to get it wrong. And most of you are going to say buyers. when the truth is the seller always has control. The seller always has control in the market because the seller determines the list price. And we've got to teach our sellers that when a buyer gains leverage in a market, that yes, they are still the ones in control. But the challenge is that so many of them overprice. It's a natural result when we shift from a market that has sellers, where sellers have leverage, to a market where a buyer has leverage. That overpricing is the natural result. Well, our role in this, by the way, is not just to present the data to them and tell them their house is overpriced or they're wrong about the price. It's to influence them by, and you'll have to pardon me, but I have spent the last day with Phil M. Jones, so there's going to be a lot of Phil M. Jones in what I'm thinking about today, because after I left him, I went and worked on this. We've got to get curious. We've got to be curious about where they're going, why they're going there, and why they think their home is worth what it's worth and what they hope to accomplish from it. We've got to connect how they want to price to what they value most. And Phil taught us yesterday, he said, instead of trying to make your point, try to understand where the other person is coming from. Try to just have a general understanding about what your seller is thinking. And the only way you can do that, by the way, is to, and this is big for Phil right now, he's talking about it a lot. Stop giving advice, start asking questions. If we ask questions of our sellers, what do you think buyers are going to compare your home to right now? How long do you think buyers are going to wait before they move on to another option? What is it that you think a buyer expects in today's market, knowing that they have leverage? If we start asking questions of our sellers and we are curious about the answers, I think we have a better impact. The second thing Phil teaches us is that people do things for their reasons, not ours. Sellers think about the pricing of their home based on their story. And their story is made up of what they paid, what their neighbor got, what they think they need. We've got to go through their story and then collect that evidence from them through asking questions to help lead them to the right decision. We've got to walk them through. There's a lot of Phil Jones we could do here. And then get out of this world of absolutes. Oh, we'll never sell it for that. That's an absolute. Instead of, well, what do you think would happen if a buyer sees your house and then a house that's like yours but's priced for 10% less? What do you think might happen there? And what that will do is create this tension. This is, again, it's all stuff I got from Phil. But the key point that I'd like to make today, and I want to open it up and hear you share, is that even when a buyer has leverage, a seller still has control. And we have to ask the right questions and lead the right conversations to help them get the outcome they want, reminding them they're the one with control. Now, Linda, when I asked the question, who has control in this market, you were the first one with the right answer, Linda Brennan. You said sellers, so you get the first word. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. And you always bring clarity, James, and you did it again today. So as you were talking, I realized we've been at this for a while in Florida in a buyer's market, and our sellers are starting to give up, just like the buyers started to give up in the seller's market. They're renting instead of letting it expire and relisting. They're renting, so they're giving up, and the agents are giving up. They don't know what to do, so they just, oh, we'll rent it. So we need to paint the picture for our sellers. What's going to happen next year? Ask the questions, of course, but also take them into the market that we're going to be going into once that lease expires, and educate them that way and help them make better decisions, because they're just not informed correctly.
By the way, renting it out may be the best opportunity for them or the best decision for them based on whatever their situation is. And we can only know that by asking questions and being curious about where they are, what they hope to do, and where they're going next. So we've got to ask those questions. And then, Linda, you set them up that a year from now, it might make more sense. That's a great share, Linda Brennan. Appreciate you. Tulio Pena, good morning in Colorado Springs.
James, I'm going to feed off of what you just said, because I start every listing presentation with, why don't you just keep it and rent it? And that turns the conversation into them convincing me to sell it. That's not what I was going to talk about, though. What I am going to talk about is...
That's a great question, by the way, that does set a stage and opens up some conversation. So I'd write that one down. Keep going, Tulio.
So, forever, we were trained, at least I was, that you price a property based on the comparables. You do what appraisers would do. You look back the last 6 months, and you look in the neighborhood for homes that are similar to it. If it's a ranch, compared to a ranch. If it's a two-story, compared to a two-story. And I have changed that very much so now. Now it's let's look at the actives, let's look at the pendings in the last 30 days, and let's not just look at the actives in your neighborhood. I always ask my people, when you shopped, did you only look in this neighborhood? Or did you look in all the neighborhoods around this neighborhood? You know, did you look in even superior neighborhoods just to see, could I get into that neighborhood? Let's look at all of these places. Let's look at the pricing in those areas and price to where these people are also looking. I recently moved. I did this. And when I sold my house, I priced it below all of those. I pissed off a few of my neighbors, but I didn't care. I did it and I got what I wanted for my house, and it sold in 3 days. And I'm happy where I am now.
It's good, Tulio. Terry, you're next in the Twin Cities. Good morning.
Good morning. It's been a long time since I have actually been excited about the pricing subject, which is really weird, but it's all been all the training that I've gotten from this. And if someone would put in the chat what it is in the name of the two people who did the Inspire call, that pricing call was a game changer, completely a game changer. I've never felt so confident in going into a pricing with my sellers. And I literally last weekend sold a condo, which is, everything's going more down in multiples in 2 days. And then I have a listing that's coming up. It's going live tomorrow. And we've talked that whole pricing thing, and I've used the wording from the calls here that the buyers have the leverage and they're going, should we do a new roof? He priced it out and he's able to get a really good price for it. I've said, let's do a new roof. Let's make this happen. And he said, so do we up the price 10, 15,000? I said, absolutely not. He said, I knew you'd say that. So we've had the conversations that was like so awesome. And I know we're going to get in multiples. I know it. I feel confident because of being here. So thank
Isn't
you.
it great when you can run your business in a way that you know you're going to get the desired outcome? And that's
Yes.
because you're committed to growing and getting better. What Terry is talking about is our call. It came up yesterday, too. Aaron Simons and Emily Baker
Thank you.
were on the Inspire Collective back in April. It's one of the best calls we've ever done. So, folks, if you're an Inspire member, go in the portal, click Weekly Mastermind Replays, and scroll to April. It's right there. Download the app. Do y'all have the Mighty Networks app on your phone so you can listen to it on the go? If you're not an Inspire member, get out your credit card and enroll. Period. The end. JamesDshaw.com and go enroll so you have access to this stuff. Terry, thank you. It's totally different running this business when you have a level of confidence around it. Julie Hess, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, James. I'm going to put this up to the window. Oh, well, where I am. This is a card that we made up, and it's all the 32 of Phil Jones. And at the bottom, it says, don't forget your calibrated questions. And those are your W's: who, where, when, how. And I have it right here on my little phone thing and color coordinated, and I look at it every day. And listening to you this morning, planning, how in the world would you go out on a listing appointment and not take time to plan? And one of the things, and even like, look at this and write out a few, scripts or whatever we want to call it. And yesterday I did something different. And James, I heard you mention it the other day and it worked. I usually do the same thing Tulio does, take actives and pendings. But what I did was really circle Mr. and Mrs. Seller. You see that they started at 300. And now they've been on the market for 32 days, and notice that they've had a price and now they're down to 275. So I went through, like Tulia said, what's going on in the market. And I actually did what I call the 3-ups, took it, highlighted and showed it. And I used my pencil when I'm with them. I do the arrows in front of them. Like you'll notice this one, they had to do a price reduction. You notice this one. Did you notice this one settled for 25,000 more? What do you think that means? And use the W questions. And she said, these people overpriced and now they're going in this direction. These people were strategic. And I said, absolutely, what would you like to do? And so we we put it at a price where we know we're going to get the activity. But you had mentioned something yesterday that I picked that up. Why aren't we taking that and showing them what is happening? And do you want to be one of these three that are sitting? Or would you like to be this one? that the arrow goes upwards. So thank you for that. It was the first time I've done that in a long time because we've come off of, hey, what do you want to price it at? Whatever you say, we'll do. And now we have to be extremely strategic. And I used that yesterday. And what do you guys think? What makes sense? And they're like, it makes sense to start here. Great, let's sign the paperwork.
Great conversations. Yeah, 3 years ago, Julie, our entire pricing conversation was sure. That was it. And we just put it in and saw what happened. Not that way anymore. And walking them through that's really important. Dan Tamarkin, good morning. There you go, Dan.
Okay,
Good
I'm
morning.
sorry. Yeah, sorry, guys. James, with this changing market, what I found, because Florida kind of led this transitioning market, it was so important to understand perspective and understand where sellers were, because they're thinking one thing and you're realizing it's something else. And that's where I think the value is in having that conversation up front. I shared before that one of the tools that's really helped me out is just having a video that shares what is actually happening in the market so I can show them. I'm not telling them, I'm showing them. And the video really helped. And one other tool that no one's really talked about that I haven't heard anyone talk about is the value of understanding the supply and demand in your neighborhood. Tulio kind of touched on this maybe, but just understanding that, hey, I could go back and say, hey, in the last 6 months, we've been averaging about 2 to 3 sales a month in your area. And right now there's about 300 contracts. So with 10 houses on the market, it means that there's probably 3 you're going to sell this month, 3 you're going to sell next month. If you want to sell in the next 30 to 60 days, we need to be among the top 3 to 4 homes in the market the buyers are going to choose from. And what I found as a result of doing that, this is really maybe the biggest success or testimonial for this approach, is that I've actually had I was thinking about this, of the last 5 or 6 appointments that I've had, I've actually had 4 or 5 where the sellers actually said, hey, it looks like we should price it down here. And in some cases, it was actually below what I had thought. And then the one that they didn't do that, it was someone who said, I don't really care what the numbers are. And he ended up listing with someone else for like $300,000 more than what I had pointed the data shows. So in either case, I won. I didn't waste time with someone that wasn't serious about selling, and everyone else has either gone under contract in a week or 2, or they came out to the supply and demand, and understanding that and explaining that was huge.
Dan, thank you. Appreciate that. That's good perspective. Irene, you get the last word this morning.
Hey, good morning. Thank you so much, James. Honestly, this is a Hall of Fame call. My OP husband is standing beside me. He was saying, this is really good. And I said, yeah, I'm actually going to go back and make notes on what you said, James. There was a few questions that you said that were just classic. So I need to share something really interesting with you. I'm going on an odd listing appointment today. It's in our farm. And it's actually a house that was built by a real estate agent, and she's been trying to sell it on her own for quite some time. So when she called me this week, and this is not somebody that I know, she said, I'd like to talk to you about listing it. And I said, thank you. I'm so honored. Why? And she said, because I see that you and your team sell everything in this area. Of course, that's not true, but it's great to have that mind share. And she said, I can't do this on my own, and I need your help. Now, this house is priced at $3.7 million. She is quite likely at least 10% overpriced or possibly more. So I'm going in, I've got all my questions prepped. Of course, I'm going to adjust them now with some of the ones from this morning. But it's so critical because, some people might say, oh my God, a $3.5 million listing just landing in your lap. Well, not if it doesn't sell. Right. And what's the point of having another sale sign up there if you don't actually have a sold? So, much like Cindy mentioned earlier this morning, I also have people that ask me why are you on this call every single day? And why have you been on it for 5.5 years? It's because of stuff like this. We can always learn, we can always get better. And if it helps you get one more listing, why not start your day off right with this call?
There's a lot there. I'd start with asking them, why are you not? I mean, are you so smart and you're hitting all your goals all the time and your business is running so perfectly that you don't ever need new ideas or inspiration? Why are you not? Number 2, thank you for saying that this call is of value. There is a lot in here, and what I'd recommend you all do is later today, I don't know, Julie will get the podcast up here a little bit later today. Go back and listen to the podcast version. Wherever you find your podcast, you go search Pivot Shift Ahead Mastermind. And we've got now, 2 weeks or so worth of these up on the podcast side. And then here's the other one. Share it. post it in your Market Centers Facebook group. Take the podcast version that posts later today and post it in your Market Centers Facebook group. Ask your team leader to email this out to every single person in your Market Center. Then teach them how to invite them to be on this call so they can participate in this too. Because in the front half of the call, we talked about what it's like to struggle and how you can get out of it. In the second half of the call, we talked about what the conversations need to look like with your sellers. Both conversations today are relevant to every single serious agent in the industry. They both are. And I appreciate you for being a serious one. All right, I got to kick it because I'm going to go hang out with Phil Jones again all day today. I appreciate all of you for being here. It's going to be a lot of fun as we move forward to tomorrow, which is what does your lead gen need to look like in a market where buyers have leverage? That's what we'll talk about tomorrow. Thanks for being here. You got your inspiration. Go put in the perspiration. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, James.